Know this already. D47 AM PM popping off as much rugby league information as possible. Right now, the 1993 Wooden Spoon in Australian Rugby League, going to the Gold Coast Seagulls for a third consecutive season, and so you don't miss any crucial rugby league information, as per always watching this video all the way through to the end, as per always. So, like I said already, 3 straight Wooden Spoons by the Gold Coast Seagulls. Who were the Gold Coast Seagulls? That's not the Gold Coast Titans who are in the comp right now. It was a different previous incarnation of Gold Coast who participated in the competition the years 1988 up to 1998, making the finals once and once only in 1997. In the 1997 final series, they beat Illawarra Steelers 25-14 in the first final, but the next final was the sudden death eliminator, and they lost that one to Roosters 32-10. So that was the only one year they had to cheer about, 1997. Every other year, they finished no higher than 4th last. So every year except 1997, they finished 4th last or lower, and dead last in 1991, 1992, and this year, 1993. This year in particular, 1993, easily the worst of them all. Easily the worst. Altogether, in their tortured existence, they played a total of 244 games. They only ever managed to win 52 games, have 9 draws, and lose 183 out of the 244 games. Those 183 losses out of 244, that was actually a loss percentage of 75. Believe it or not, exactly 75% of the games they'd found a way to lose. Unbelievably. So then, anything like a few players like they did have to cheer about, like with all due respect, I'm not trying to tear them down or trying to be too harsh or critical of them, but they were a hopeless team. They were a useless rugby league team. And aside from a few players which I'm about to mention, they just lacked the class, quality, experience of players that other teams in the competition had at their disposal. And when they got depth, when they had injuries, they had minimal depth to cover any injuries. They were very poorly coached and managed both on and off the field, and that makes it extremely difficult to win games on a regular basis. At one point, they had King Wally Lewis, one of the greatest players of all time, in 1991 and in 1992. In 1994, they had Craig Coleman, previously a legendary halfback for South Sydney throughout the 1980s. So those two legendary players, Wally Lewis and Craig Coleman, couldn't even lift them, getting winning games on a regular basis. The only other players of any other note they did have were the outside backs, Danny Peacock and Shane Russell, who, while they were hot and cold, could at least score a few tries for them sometimes. They'd get a few excellent long-range tries for them. Not often enough, but sometimes at least. And in the forwards, they had a brilliant hooker called Ray Herring, and they had another brilliant hooker called Jamie Goddard. Jamie Goddard, of course, represented Queensland in State of Origin, and he had an infamous incident with New South Wales Andrew Johns in the 1997 State of Origin, when the cattle dog call went out in a scrum, and Goddard, of course, king hit Johns, and flushed him on the jaw and knocked him cold, an infamous State of Origin moment. And they also had 2 awesome second rollers, Peter Gill and Brett Horsnell, who played for them as well, and they could unsettle opposition defences with hard runs and with classy offloading, classy ball play, classy skills, stuff like that. But on a whole, most of the time, their team was just not up to scratch, not up to standard, was subpar compared to all the other teams in the competition, and that's why they lost 3 out of every 4, 75% of their games. And like I said, this time here in 1993, easily the worst season, far worse than the 1991 and 1992 Wooden Spoons, in fact. So, the stats, Gold Coast in 1993, they managed 1 meagre win. Believe it or not, they managed to win 1 meagre game the whole season. In round 6, they beat Newcastle 22 points to 6, the only game they won all year. They then lost the next 16 consecutive games. So, of course, they got the Wooden Spoon. When you're losing 16 straight games, there's no way you're not going to get the Wooden Spoon. When you lose 16 straight games, they're crying out loud. They're for and against. They scored only 229 points in 1993, but conceded 572. So the for and against an unbelievable minus 343 points, unbelievably. You'd probably expect that, the fact that they only won 1 game all year. And the scorers, meagre as per always. The leading point scorer, his name was Steve Weston, and he could only get 30 points. He got 2 tries and 11 goals for Gold Coast in 1993. So those 30 points was, it's not many, but wasn't enough for him to be the leading scorer. for the Seagulls in 1993, terribly. And then we had Craig Weston, no relation to Steve Weston. He could only get 28 points through 4 tries and 6 goals. And we had Adrian Vowles, who also got 28 points through 5 tries and 4 goals. And then we had Wayne Bartram, who got 20 points, 1 try and 8 goals. Wayne Bartram was the leading scorer in 1991 with 38 points. Leading scorer in 1992 with 42 points, but this time I could only get 20 points, 1 try and 8 goals. So yeah, the picking slim, or I like to slim as per always, but even much slimmer even than usual. Even by Gold Coast Seagulls' woeful standard, this was an abysmal season. But like I said, having an abysmal, disastrous, catastrophic season, it sounds horrendous, and it is, but unfortunately it was actually the norm for them. It was actually normal for them to be playing this incompetently, this ineptly, unfortunately. So then, like I said, the moment in the sun, the one game they won, they managed to beat Newcastle 22 points to 6 in round 6. But the most embarrassing moment is also against Newcastle, just to highlight what a disaster their existence was. The next time they played Newcastle was 1993 round 21, and on that occasion, Newcastle managed to beat Gold Coast 50 points to 6. Now that's a lot worse than it sounds, because both Gold Coast and Newcastle Knights entered the comp in the year 1988, and Newcastle were a reasonable team, but when Newcastle won their games, they just won through their defence. They won through tough, hard, no-nonsense, gritty, old-school, tough, hard, no-nonsense rugby league for a real tough defence. Like they'd win games 10-6 or 14-6, 12-10, 18-8, 20-12, stuff like that. They'd win low-scoring, hard-fought contests, which there's nothing wrong with. So to concede 50 points against Newcastle was humiliating, even by Gold Coast's terrible defensive standard. And it was also the very first time that Newcastle had ever scored 50 points in a game. Yeah, it took Newcastle nearly 6 years to score 50 points in a game, and it just happened to be against Gold Coast Seagulls humiliatingly enough. But as you'd probably expect, there was another embarrassing losses by the Seagulls in 1993. Not at all unexpected, but still embarrassing. In 1993, round 8, a 35 points to 4. 35-4 hiding from Canterbury at Belmore, Canterbury's old home ground. In round 9, the next game, 48-4 hiding from Canberra Raiders. In round 18, a 46-6 hiding from North Sydney Bears. In round 20, got a single point, a 46-0 demolition by Manly at Brookvale Oval. And like I said, in round 21, the first time Newcastle ever scored 50 points in a game, beating Gold Coast 50 points to 6, 1993, round 21. So there you go. So finally, that's the end of the Gold Coast Seagulls Wooden Spoons. They didn't get it again. So their last 5 years, 1994 up to 1998, they didn't get it again. They did at least make the finals once in 1997. But 1994, 1995, 1996 and 1998, even though they avoided the spoon, like in won maybe 5 or 6 games in the season, they didn't finish any higher than 4th last, as I already said. So there you go. Thank you so much for watching all the way through to the end, so you didn't miss any imperative rugby league information. And thank you always for ongoing pulverising, brutal, benevolent support. Your boy all day, DL47, toodaloo.